Welcome, everyone, to the Quantum Health Connection podcast. My name is Heather Nielsen. I'm here with my fabulous co host, Vanessa Baldwin. And today we're doing a solo cast, just the two of us. We're going to be talking about the evolution of our consciousness as it relates to health and how we create our own realities in relationship to our health and basically just how we experience our lives. And so we want to talk about some of the conditioning that we've shed and how we've experienced our health in relationship to those changes of how we view things. And I just want to say, Vanessa, before we begin, that our perception is so powerful, like it pretty much will drive the whole show for us as far as, our quality of living. And it's funny because one of the things that has changed for me is I was like, it's kind of an interesting roundabout thing is when I was doing therapy early on, I'm like, oh, cognitive behavioral, cool. Like how we think, it's going to impact how we feel and all what we do and our behaviors and all that. And then I got into the whole somatic approach and trauma and somatic and attachment and
Mm.
affect and all that. I'm like, oh, the cognitive behavioral, that's a bunch of crap. And I've had clients come in and say, like, what long time ago, oh, I was traumatized by the cognitive behavioral therapist because I felt shamed
Mm.
because I couldn't keep my thoughts positive. Well, that's not
Mm.
necessarily how I would go about things now. But so one of the things I've changed my mind about is, well, our perception and our thoughts matter significantly, but now we have more quantum, explanation as to why that is. We don't want to tell
Mm.
people like you have to just have positive thoughts because then everything's going to be peachy. Like that's a very myopic view about it, and people will become shamed because it's too fragmented. But anyway, just to start us off, that's the kind of stuff we'll be talking about today, you guys. We thought this would be really interesting for you to see how, like, think the ways that we've evolved and what we've believed that we no longer believe, and just how all that ties into our health.
Oh yeah, that's so good. It's so interesting, the cognitive behavioral part. I could talk about that a little bit because I've actually had cognitive behavioral therapy done on me myself and felt nothing, felt no shift. That was when I was really, really, really sick. And I think that my mind couldn't be shifted in that moment just with cognitive behavioral. Like I think it was not enough, like, for that programming to be shifted, just that kind of therapy, it didn't work at that time. It doesn't mean that the therapy is ineffective. It just wasn't effective for me at that time. And I don't know what the reasoning was. I think I needed I honestly probably think it was just low cellular voltage was a huge part of that piece at that time that I couldn't even like that I needed more energetic capacity probably to actually make those shifts even to occur in my brain. So that's interesting. But yeah, that whole shedding of beliefs and what we used to be and how we used to be. And I think that it's an evolution. And I think that everybody's on their own evolutional journey of where they are. And I think that there's never any judgment. And I think sometimes people, when they hear about how I live my life or what I'm doing and all the things, and I start rambling and I can get really kind of passionate and like all of a sudden I'm talking about something that they have no idea, like because they're not like in the same reality that I live. So they're like, I don't even know what she's talking about. And I'm like, oh wait, Vanessa, stop. They don't understand any of this. Like tone it down. Like I have to like, rewire it a little bit for myself because it just happens because my experiences through my life have created a lot of like profound shifts in me that have like shifted a lot of the conditioning, the beliefs, the patterns, the thoughts. The things I used to believe are very different than what I sit here with you now to what I believe. And that's my experiences that led me there. But every soul, every person is on their own journey and it's also not about right or wrong either. It's just about my beliefs and my experiences, how they shape me and where it's brought me to in my level of consciousness or our level of consciousness or Heather's or whatever. And it's just so interesting to me because everybody's going to be at their own level of understanding and there's never any judgment. And I think what we all are trying to do is just support and bring awareness to all these things that we're always talking about. So I think that's so interesting. And I do think like sometimes Heather and I were just talking about this before we started recording. Like, is ignorance bliss a little bit? Like, not knowing some things sometimes is actually better because the fear around these things actually, or the worry about these things actually can make things worse for somebody. Because if you're always worried about all the food that you're eating, if it's bad for you, or all the toxins, or all the things, or all the Wi-Fi, or all the glyphosate. I just made a reel about this that I haven't posted. It's like somebody asked me one time if I don't go outside because of chemtrails. And I'm like, no, I still go outside, like, because I'm not going to allow that fear to stop me from living my life. It's annoying. I don't like it. I wish it didn't happen, but I still just do my thing. So I just, yeah, there's so many ins and outs of this that we can get into that are just exciting. But yeah, I
Well,
think it,
regarding the chemtrails, excuse me, it's like because they spray a ton where I live, and it's
yeah.
so the goal, like the challenge for me, or I guess I'll call it an invitation. The invitation
Hmm.
for me is to be able to go outside because I'm going to be going outside and
Hmm.
not get annoyed
Right.
and frustrated, and then go into like they, because I think they is a big buzzword nowadays. Well, they. Everyone's talking about they are doing this and they're doing like we're the ultimate, like we're these victims of this big nefarious they blob. It's really interesting. I think about that a lot. But anyway, so going outside, Vanessa, and focusing on what is nourishing, what is uplifting, not to be like bury my head in the sand or anything like that, but to manage my own reaction so that I'm not being, constantly triggered by chemtrails. Because, even though today is one of the rare clear days, it's usually there's lots of zigzags going on up there and all. I notice I have this reaction. That reaction is based on the belief that this is so bad, right? So there's this powerful interplay between our perception beliefs and then how our physiology responds, and that's where I need to focus for myself.
Mm. That point, I just wanted to write down the word they so I didn't forget to say it because I love that you just said that because that was so interesting. And yes, it is our belief about the chemtrails and what we think about them. Because if you didn't know anything about them, you wouldn't worry about them and you wouldn't think about them and it probably you wouldn't even notice the effects of it, right? But now because you know about it, then you're going to think about it, you're going to worry about it, then you're going to have, oh, that's why I have this or X, Y, and Z, which I think is just so interesting because that can you put that into Wi-Fi, you could put that into all of these things, right? But then when you said they, one of the things that I feel like I've really embodied in the last couple of years, and of course this has been an evolution, is we are actually all one. So we are, if it's they, we collectively are one. So me and Heather, of course, are quantumly entangled, pa parents, family, my dog, people I see. Okay, that makes sense, right? But even the person who you don't like or maybe hate or that is they don't like the way that they behave, you're actually also quantumly entangled to that because collectively we are all one. We are one quantum collection. We are one collective consciousness. So it's hard to like wrap my brain around that sometimes, but that's why I think the word hate or the word like doesn't belong in vocabulary. Like to hate somebody is to hate yourself, or like to hate something is to hate yourself in a lot of ways. So I don't know, like there's this thing in me that's like it's all about love, not hate, and just like I don't know how else to describe it, but it's like if you hurt somebody else, you're actually hurting yourself. Like I feel that very much. So like you hurt the tree and that's also part of me. Like I don't know. Like does that make sense? Like I just feel like that's been a deep knowing of mine that I don't like that word. I don't, I just don't use it. I don't know. Does that make sense, Heather, what I'm saying?
Totally makes sense. And that's, I think, one of the challenges that I've struggled with, especially coming from a background with trauma, is how
Yeah.
do we hold both? Like there's such a dichotomy, right? And that people will say, the philosophers and the spiritual people are like, well, you can't have one without the other. Because it's that duality, right? And so how can we hold the dark and the light and still be able to, feel okay and go about our business and see what we're here to do as a human incarnation and all of that, knowing
Mm,
that there's this, because you can't have one without the other. That's really hard for us because I
yeah.
think a lot of people in the health community and the spiritual community, we want to kind of focus on over here. And can we make everything good? I have that all the time. I'm like, I don't want any animals to suffer. Well, except for the ones I'm eating for meat, but are they suffering? It's like, isn't there a way to do it kindly? All these like super inflammatory, contentious views that people have, right? Politics and animal rights, just all of it. My high school English teacher had this saying that drove me up the wall. He's like, there is no good or bad, only thinking makes it so. And I'm like,
Oh my God, I love that.
I think it's like Socrates or Plato or something like that.
Yeah,
I
yeah, there
forget. I
is
was,
no good or bad, only
yeah.
thinking makes it so because it's our thinking brain that gets in the way of everything. I honestly think that's a lot of reasons why pain or things become chronic. And we had Dr. Stephen Hussey on the podcast, and he explained that in his book about pain. He's like, it's because we perceptu, what is the word? Think, tell me the word.
Perceive.
No, not to perceive.
Uh,
We overthink about it. We think and think and think and think and think and think. There's a word for that. I can't think of
okay.
it. Whatever. We keep thinking about it and overthinking and worrying and worrying and worrying about it. Like, oh, this pain's never gonna go away. I'm gonna be like this forever. I
Oh,
can't walk. I can't do
perseverate.
this. Thank you,
Perseverate.
perseverate. That's the word I was looking for. We just keep thinking about that us, and then we like make meaning of it, and then we like then it becomes us, and then we just continue on that same thing. And it's like if we didn't have that part of the brain that would continually worry or think about it, he specifically said that the pain would not become chronic. It would just be healed. Just like the cut on your finger is just automatically going to heal because the body's a self-healing machine. But we tend to overthink things and worries about things and how it's going to affect our day-to-day lives and how we can't do this or we can't do that. And then it becomes chronic because of the fact that we continue to worry about it. It's just like so interesting. So,
Mhm.
I
Well,
mean,
this brings up like the whole we create our own reality
yeah.
idea. It's like, okay, how do we really know how much of our reality we can create and how much control do we really have over all of the things? It's so deep, I think, for people that it's too much sometimes. It's too heady, it's too quantumy, right? So
Mhm.
that's why we come back to the everyday tangible things in front of us. So where's the happy medium, right? Between how
Mhm.
much we trust whatever's happening
Mm.
is in our best and highest good and all of that, right? And there's like I've been sitting with this idea like there's no mistakes, it's all just learning, life is just a process, there's really no end goal, right?
I
How do
agree.
we anchor ourselves in the present and be able to increase our ability to tolerate discomfort so that we have more self-awareness and more consciousness so that we're making decisions and able to see how we're perceiving things. Like it's a lot, it's a lot to hold, and I think that's a lot to ask of people when they're busy working and raising families and trying to, you know what I mean? It's like, how do we find a way to be with all this? Anyways,
Yeah,
but getting back to like, let's talk about where we used to be because I feel like we could go all day about, the state
I
of the
know.
world and what's going to happen this summer. And it's like, ah. So I
I
grew
just,
up, I grew up very conventionally. You did too, Vanessa. Like I grew up eating crap food, like a lot of boxed cereal. God knows how much iron shavings I have in my body, the iron
oh, me
filings.
too, me too.
I did the regular vaccines as a kid. Thank God it was early on, early 70s, 69 I was born. So thank goodness the vaccine schedule was smaller. Somehow when I went to college, it seemed like things started shifting a little for me. And then interestingly, when I got my first job at a natural food store, like this whole world opened up for me. And I'm like, oh, people don't eat the same way I did growing up, and people do different things, and there's homeopathy and there's these different things. So that's really when my eyes started to be open about there's different ways of living, and that was my portal into the whole health world. And then I got into my neuroses. Oh my god, white sugar's bad, white rice is bad, and it started with food for me.
Oh yeah, I had a lot of. I'm so glad that you had that awakening so much earlier for you. Mine took till I had my own health crisis, which I mentioned many times, and I certainly grew up very conventional and always believed that the medical system had all the answers, right? Every time I had gotten sick, I went right to the medical doctor, and he would fix it, and he'd make it go away. Or she or she would fix it, and they make it go away. The antibiotics, the steroids, whatever, they'd fix it, right? They'd make it go away. So that was my belief and my understanding until it stopped working, and then I was like, well, wait a minute, it was almost like a parent, like in a way, like just like being abandoned by a parent in a way, like almost like if you think of it that way, like it's like something that you've always relied and felt safe with and trusted to help you when things didn't go right, and all of a sudden it was like that's not here for me anymore because they can't help me because I stuck with the medical system when I got sick right away because that was all I knew. So I kept going to the doctors and I would go over and over and over and over again to all these different providers and nobody could help me. And I was like, after a while, I was like, well, they can't help me. And I always describe it. It felt like buildings crumbling around me. That's how it felt. Like it was like, wow, all these belief systems that I held to be true were just not what I had safety in, right? Were just not the truth anymore. So, I mean, yeah, I mean, all my kids had regular jabs when they were younger. I thought vaccines were needed. I thought they were necessary. I thought that's what you do. Like you can't be without them. Like I would never, if I didn't get sick from one, I would have never even questioned them probably in my life because I was just living in the matrix and thinking that was the right thing. So I didn't question that framework. I didn't step out of it because I thought if you didn't have it, you would get sick. Like you would, my kids would have polio or they would have measles and mumps. Like I would never think that would be okay. So my experience just changed that because I got so sick and I got so sick due to medical interventions, and then medical interventions denied me and said it was all in my head, which maybe it was partly in my head. I don't know. Like, like maybe I did create some of that. Like I'm sure I did play a role in it in lots of ways, but I couldn't get any relief or support from them at that time. So I had to look outside. And then I went into and people know this story. I went to the functional world, and then that was just more fear, more fear, and more fear, and more fear layered on fear. So it was like, okay, now all foods are bad. And, I really held on to that for a really long time. It's still something I work on, like in a daily regular, because there was just so much put on to me about food fear. So yeah, it was crazy. So there was a lot of that for a long time.
Yeah, that's where I started with the food fear, right? And thinking like I can't have dairy and God forbid I eat white flour, definitely not white sugar because I read William Duffy's Sugar Blues in the early 90s and scared the bejesus out of me. I'm like, oh, it's also racist. Oh my God, you can't have white sugar.
Oh my God, I did never know that. I didn't know that book, but
It'll
okay.
call you. Oh, well, yeah, how it started, the
Mhm.
sugar industry, but and then it'll create cancer and just all these things. And so deep,
And
deep,
now, and
huh?
now you don't believe any of that though, right?
Well,
Now you
yeah,
don't.
like deep conditioning and so in the food fears and whatnot. And I
Mhm.
would just eat really basic. And I literally ate chicken, kale, and sweet potatoes for like 10 years. It was really sad because I like to cook, but that's what was on the menu for various reasons. And so it's a very interesting journey because as I became sicker with the chronic fatigue crash, well, there was that, and then it kind of went on. Like, right, I felt like I was barely better for years. But the less I ate, because I thought it was the food, still, like I didn't understand it was about energy and frequency.
Mhm.
So the work that
And the
didn't help.
restriction of
Yeah,
all
the
that does.
restricting did not help, but it kind of did a little bit for just a short period of time. Like I wouldn't be as bloated, but then it's like, okay, now what? I had to eat. So,
Mhm.
and all the things I was doing, I didn't realize were actually making it harder for me, like the histamine issues. But the only thing that really moved the needle for me is the sunlight in the
Mhm.
beginning. So that was the main shift I made from just thinking about the actual, biochemicals. I got to change that. I got to control that. I got to do whatever, find the answer to sunlight. And I think the interesting thing about sunlight is that it's so simple and it's free and it really I think draws home this idea, Vanessa, that it's like it's just you and the nature. It's just you and the earth. It's like it's about you. Like it helps put the focus back on you. Like I don't have to go out searching for something outside of myself. I just need to be my native self in nature. Right? So
Mhm.
it starts to help, I think, turn the tide from I have to go outside of myself to find the expert, the guru, the solution, the drug, whatever it is, to know I actually can turn inward, right? I
Mhm.
need to be able to also receive what's already there to nourish me, which is the free sunlight. That's huge.
Oh yeah. Well, that's me too. That's why we have this podcast together, is because sunlight and grounding was like my first ticket into getting better. Not any medication, not any protocol, not any diet, not any supplement, none of that helped me. Just sitting outside on my front lawn every day with my feet in the grass and just sitting there in the sunlight and watching the birds. I used to listen to this woodpecker. I mean, that's what I did. I did it for hours. And that was the first ticket into me getting out of depression, to me getting out of chronic pain, to me getting out of insomnia, to me getting out of suicidal thoughts. It was just light. So that's why it's this powerful thing. But now you speak of light, like there's just so many things that I used to think differently. I did think sunlight caused cancer. I did think sunlight would be harmful. I did think these things. Of course, now I don't. Now my views are very different. But it's good to know that someone who loves sunlight so much, I used to believe those same myths, that all those things were true, that, to fear the sun and be worried. And I used to get rashes and hives from the sun and be pale as a ghost. And, then I would blame the sun, but it was my misuse of the sunlight that was actually the issue, right? As I didn't know how to use the sunlight appropriately for my health. Or to just be in connection with nature. You're not even living, it's a living in alignment, right? So then your body and physiology knows what to do based on the signals it receives, right? So I had all those misconceptions about light and sunlight. I certainly never thought that artificial light was bad for you. 5, 6 years, well, maybe it's 8 years ago now, 7 years ago. I certainly would never have thought that that an LED bulb or an incandescent bulb made any difference to a person's health. Like I would never think of that. So it's all these things that we don't, different thoughts we used to have. So I can relate to a lot of that too.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I think the most important thing is to feel into how it is when we don't pay attention to our body's experience of its environment,
Mm,
and we're just focused on survival, or we're just oblivious to how our body's experiencing the inputs of the world around us, then we're not going to make the connection that it has anything to
mm,
do with, right, what's happening around us, that it can create a whole different experience inside. So it's starting with our thoughts, right, and our beliefs, coming back to what we started the podcast with. So it all connects, right? It's all about like what are the frequencies you're bathing in that are internally generated and then externally received, and the combination of that, and there, yes, there's some ancestral energy that comes down the line as well. But thank goodness we have homeopathy to help with that and so forth. So, but that's been a big part of my journey. Is, I mean, it's really sad. So many people I've worked with over the years, it's like, especially for women, it's like we're so ramped up, we're so much in hyper arousal state, and go, 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 do, hustle, work harder, take care of all the things, the people, the plants, the animals, is like, right? And you're doing it all. There's not enough time to really feel into how your body's in the
yeah.
moment, like the sensations in your body, what's actually happening on an energetic level. And that's the medicine. It's like we can't tap into our intuition, we aren't attending to our needs. There's just too much demand on us and too much to do, which I get it, it's understandable. Somehow, though, we have to make the shift to find a way to attend to what it is that our bodies are calling for, and our spirit, our soul, all of that. So for me, what really started to help me heal my gut, which was the sunlight. After
Hmm.
years of the food, and I did all the functional medicine, I did the SIBO stuff, the herbal antimicrobials. Like I spent thousands and thousands of dollars on all that with not much at all move the needle. So it was the sunlight, and then I started to realize over years that it was all the fear and that I would generate for myself, right?
Yeah.
So unconsciously, that would also keep me in a more of a freeze state. So it's that's why I'm like I was telling Vanessa before we started, there's no goal for me anymore. It's just more and more of me becoming who I am and being
Mm,
more relaxed over time. That's how it's different for me. Before, how I used to be, which I'm no longer buying into, is like there's an end goal, or when I get this, or maybe if I move here. It's like, no, there's really, I mean, yes, some people think they feel like so much better when they move to one place, but really it's about how can I be my most optimized self right here, right now, without
in this
having to
present moment.
wait.
Yeah. In this present moment. So many nuggets I want to touch on of things that you said. And one thing that a belief that I'm, working on and definitely held before was that productivity equaled how my success and how good of a person I was, right? And like how much I got done in the day, right? On all of that, or how many things I was able to produce. And of course, that's a belief system that's been, put onto us for sure. And that's not really about what the day is about. It's not about how much you produce or how much you do or how much you get done. It's like how much joy did you have in your day? How much fun did you have in your day? How many times did you smile? Did you love well? Did you enjoy what you ate, right? Like, did you actually love it, or did you really sick of eating, like you said before, the whatever it was, the sweet potatoes and the chicken that you ate every day? Like, no, like, did you enjoy it? Did you laugh? Did you play? Did you lay in the sun and take a nap, which I love to do now, which I would have never have done in the past because I would have been like, I'm not being productive, like I'm not getting something done. And it's like these beliefs and these patterns and these th thoughts that we just always have to be doing to feel good about ourselves. That's a thing that's been crumbling for me in the last years. That took that, that's an evolution that came later. And then it made me also think about how you said like you have to clear these whatever, these parasite cleanses and all these like you try to detox and do all these things and it's like It's not really about the physical form of those things. It's about the terrain and the energetic imprint that those things carry in my mind more. So it's really not about the physical. It's about healing them more at an energetic level because energy precedes matter. And before that came to you in, or me or whoever, in a physical form, it was in an energetic form first. And we need to heal that energy, which I think, is huge. And that's why I love homeopathy so much. And energetic medicines, but even also just the circadian, the quantum stuff can work too, because it's shifting the whole quantum communication network in your body and the whole way that the energy flows, which is why disease persists, is because energy is not flowing in there's those knots or those ripples that are just not allowing the energy to flow appropriately. And then I also wanted to tie in here because it just made me think of it is like I used to believe that all disease was just genetic and there was nothing you could do and that's just incurable. And like some people are just dealt a bad card and that's it. And there's just nothing we could do about it and it's incurable. And not even, it's just how it is. Like there's just nothing you could do. That was my perception around that. And of course, I don't believe any of that now. I mean, obviously epigenetic and it's triggered in our environment by certain things, and we can shift anything. I don't believe anything is incurable, really. I think that there's miraculous ways that people heal all the time. It's just finding the way to, tap into that person. And all the things that we teach here are huge supports on making those things happen and making those needles move for people. So they're really feeling in a much, much better, healthier, vital state in their life. But yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of reclamation, like reclamation of our innate healing capacity,
Yeah.
trusting in our bodies,
Yeah.
trusting that we're going to be able to, that our bodies are going to be able to heal itself, right? We don't have to do any major big things. It's not, I mean, I think that there's so much power we take back from the conditioning of like, I don't know, I'm not the expert, like I have to only go to the experts, all of that stuff.
Mhm.
I think that I can actually apply to education as well. I mean,
I mean, that's another building that crumbled for me. I mean, I was a public school teacher for 15 years. I mean, I taught special ed. That was so like, when a career is like that's you, like when someone say, "What are you?" I'm a special ed teacher. Like that's what I do. Like that's was like it so was my identity. Also a runner. Like when I started running, I'm like I'm a runner. Like that was so my identity, which now that was something else that crumbled for me because it was like there's so many beliefs. I used to think running was really good for you, and now I really don't. I think it's too hard on the body and it's too stressful and I mean, I would run up to go run, for miles and miles and then have to sit on my couch for days because my knees were so exhausted. And I'm like, that's not health, right? Like, so I'm sure there was other reasons for that, but that's not health, right? Is my point. And the same thing with the educational system too. Like to be as, I was a public school teacher 15 years and now I can sit here and say, I'm like, that whole system sucks. Like I can just literally just say that, like the whole thing, it's like a prison for kids. I toy with this so much in my life because I don't know, like I want my kids to be happy and what they want, so I let them choose. You want to be in school or do you want to be at home? Like it's their choice. That's what I've decided. Like,
nice.
because I
Yeah.
also believe that like I used to believe that my kids were going to be perfect and I could shape them and make them whoever they want also. That's another belief that I don't believe anymore. But I also used to believe that I had to like control them and be like, on them. And now I don't. Now I'm very much more lenient as a parent in a lot of ways. I mean, the way I parent is like so different. It's more about guiding and I don't really love them in that system, but if they choose that system, that's what their wants to do still at this time. And I didn't fall into like natural health until they were well older and they were already ingrained in a system. And there are values of that system that is supportive, like they like their teachers and they feel this community and the connection and they have friends and there are good, but there are a lot of negative drawbacks to it as well. That is huge. And sometimes I have to do some deprogramming or or not do deprogramming. Maybe the word is I just come in and I just say, well, just how about this? And like just mention some other things, to try to guide them and because they're their own soul on their own journey and they're going to make their own decisions over time and they're going to have their own experiences that shape who they are. And it's not going to be me. They're not going to be me. They're going to be them. And they might have different views and beliefs, and that's okay too. But I hope some of the things that I sprinkle in, you know.
Oh,
I go
absolutely.
with, yeah,
They're. See, the thing is when you start changing, even though it's threatening to them, it gets their
very.
attention. It's yeah, but it gets their attention, and it's such a great role model for them to not be afraid to do what they want, because I think it's that mob mentality, right, that keeps us sometimes suppressed and not finding our own way, breaking
Mm.
apart from the pack. That is our medicine is somewhere else. You know, I started out with a teaching credential too, and I spent a lot of time in public schools and in the teaching aspect, and then also there's some time I spent for mental health as well. And that was really awful. But really, like I drove by, there's building a new addition to a school near me, and it just looks like a prison, like you said. I mean, it's
It
so
does.
ugly. I hate modern architecture, anyways. All the angular stuff, I just absolutely detest it. But anyways, so kids, like I think in Scandinavia, I forget which country it is, Norway, Finland, Sweden, one of those. Kids are outside like 3 days a week, and they don't even go to school for like 9 months. I don't know. It's not that
No, I don't
long,
understand it.
and they're outside a lot doing like actual things in nature, and their test scores are so high. It's
Oh yeah.
we have such a
They're
hard
not, kids are not
time.
meant to sit down. Like
No,
I have one kid who's like has a very like tubercular restless energy. He's very smart. And the teacher's like, well, he's the smartest one in the class. However, he's really bored all the time. And I'm like, yeah, he's not meant to sit in a chair all day long. Like he's just not capable of that. Like it's just, he's not who he's ever going to be. And I'm not going to make him force him to be that way. So I don't really, if
but it's
he's
such a
doing
waste
well.
of your son's time. Like, how dumb is that? That this we've created a system. Which, if you go back in the day, it's like, oh, the system was created to create workers. Okay, let's be honest. Like
Yes, right. That was Rockefeller. Create a
unquestioning
system of workers, not thinkers.
followers,
Yeah.
right? Unquestioning followers who are going to work in the machine.
Yeah.
That's how I see schools now. Anyways, so he's like, it's such a wasted opportunity. Should be doing all these amazing things, and I mean, I don't know what could be done about it, but it's like, wow, that sucks, and he shouldn't be sitting there bored all day. Um, but that's the limitations of the kind of, system we built or somebody built. So really, I don't know. At some point, like with Alex X, the way forward, and these other movements, like we have to take back our own humanity. Like that's my main interest. How do we reclaim our own humanity? It has to be something new, because happening now is not working. Like we need a new. I don't know if system's the right word. We need a new approach. We need a new foundation of
Well, the
how.
only way it's going to come is from us. Like the only way it
Yeah.
comes
Oh,
from us. It's
absolutely.
the only way.
Absolutely.
It's the only way.
But we're
Um,
so locked in now though. And like you have to do this and you have to do that. I hear people for years, and myself included, like,
Me
well, I
too.
have to go to work. I have to do this and I have to do that. Or what will happen? Like that's my question, right? Well, then I won't have money to eat and da da da. It's like, okay. So just and thank goodness people are getting back to the land, they're doing their own self-sustaining kind of activities. But I don't know. This is where it gets dicey for me, Vanessa, because it's like people get stressed out about, well, what's going to happen? When is the
Mhm.
next, health issue, manufactured crisis, whatever? When is the next, what's going to happen with the oil field, blah, blah, blah. And I can't be marinating in that all the time. Like, do I notice and pay attention? Yes. Am I going to go down the rabbit holes? And I've done that before. That made me absolutely miserable and affected my health. So we
I think
get
those
to
rabbit hole.
choose.
Yeah. Yeah, we do get to choose. And I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I think they're there to distract us and to get us down those rabbit holes and to really distract us from the present moment and our reality and the things that we do need to be focusing on, like within our own lives. So I don't know. I try not to engage with a lot of that stuff because I want to live my life from a space of love, not fear. And I just don't like to engage with things that are trying to make me feel fearful or make me feel unsafe or things like that. I don't know. I try to avoid. And maybe that is ignorance. I don't know. I just would rather, I just delete, unfollow, don't engage. I mean, I don't know. That's just how I feel about it. And
Well, I think one of my main concerns, Vanessa, is we end up collectively, the people who pay attention to all this stuff, like we end up victimizing ourselves. Like we're the
oh,
victims of
yes.
these perpetrators, of these pedophiles, of these nefarious, villains, whatever. That's a problem because then we're still in a position of being disempowered. So we have to see ourselves not as victims of something's being
Mhm.
perpetrated onto
Yeah.
us. We have to find our way to empower ourselves. And I think honestly, by changing our voltage, changing our frequency is how to do that.
100%. Somebody, I was having a conversation with another friend of mine, and she was talking about another friend, and of course, nameless, and she was just saying, sometimes I realize, like, when somebody's engaging the way the person was engaging, that they're so very unhealed. Is, that's what we led to in the conversation, that they have a lot more healing work to do, right? In the way that they're behaving, in the way that they're engaging, in the way they're doing things. And it's like that's their journey and that's their sole purpose, and they'll get to where they're going to get to go, and that's fine. But it's just an interesting concept, because when you do engage in these practices, right, that we're talking about all the time on this podcast, and really engage in the kind of life that is really aligned with nature and connected, and you live from that standpoint, and you engage in these other medicines like homeopathy and energy work and all that, you do up level yourself. And then when you can visually feel it and see it, when other people who are not engaging in those things, they've got a lot of work to do. And that's not a judgment, it's not a negative, you know what I mean? Like, it's not like they're bad, I'm better. It's not that kind of vibe. Like, it's not what I'm going for. It's just that you can see it. It's like, okay, they've got work to do on their journey, and they'll get there when they get there, right? Does that make sense? I just feel like that's this work that we are always promoting does up level you in a way. And that up leveling can filter out to others, of course, and have a ripple effect, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a way of being that's an increase in awareness and being at choice
Hmm.
and choosing how we're going to like everything. It's a super intimidating amount of accountability and responsibility to
It is.
live like fully embodied and fully in your own power and fully as aware as you can be. And I think it can be pretty overwhelming for people. So, how to balance all of it, I think is really the name of the game. Because otherwise, who wants to get out of bed when it's like, oh my God, there's all this and that and the other, and what's going to happen. So I think that's why we need to come back to what do we really value, because I really respect Kelly Erickson's work about values,
Oh yeah,
and
me too.
that's our identity, is what we value, what do we embrace. And so we need some kind of guiding principle, whatever your framework is for your beliefs, and so forth, your faith and whatnot. But it's like, what matters to me, right? Connection, community, freedom, authenticity, so forth, right? Beauty, whatever it is. How am I actually creating more of that in my life? Like, that can be the guiding principle. That's our rudder, so to speak.
Mm.
And everything that I do and say hopefully will emanate from those values.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, I love her work too on values, and I think it's so important. And if we think about what we value, and then we try to make sure we're embodying that each and every day, how much more fulfilled will we be in our day to day? And how much more will we be living in our authentic self, like just alone? And yeah, I have a lot of the same values that you do. And authenticity and autonomy, like the choice, and everything we do is a choice. And I love that you taught me that. I'm always noticing that. I'm like, yep, that was a choice though, right? Everything. Like, if I choose to work a little bit later and then I'm feeling a little bit more tired, okay, that was my choice, right? I chose that. So I'm always paying attention to those things. And I think like presence super valuable to me. And I notice that since presence is one of my values, and it's always something that I'm working on, like I pay attention when I'm not being present. I'm like, oh crap, I was on my phone. I'm supposed to be with my family. Presence, Vanessa, presence. Like, so and then you start modeling that, and then it's like, oh, they're putting their phone down too, or whatever, right? Or just as an example, that's one example, right? Um, so it's so important for us to notice that, and how we actually are putting that into our daily routine. And it is, again, you have to be intentional about it. You have to think about these things, just like we have to be intentional about if we're inside more than we're outside, if we're, staying up all night and doing these things. Like, everything is about intention, really, and living from that standpoint of what is the reality that you want to create, right? Again, it comes back to that. So it's just so interesting. And yeah, I think that over time, the more that we, meaning the individual, does these things, the more it ripples out to others, and it really up levels other people's awareness about these things. So I think it's an important thing to be doing.
Pause the video.
Yeah, so another one is I used to believe that like an infection could only be healed with antibiotics or some sort of steroid or some sort of suppression agent. Like I didn't believe that like we could heal it any other way. And again, my own experiences brought me to that when I had a UTI and I was like, I can't go get antibiotics again anymore. Like this is I can't keep doing that. That's the path that brought me to getting sicker. So then I used homeopathy and it helped. And I was like, oh my God, like I can actually heal this. And now I do that all the time. And I have like a lot of times clients will come to me for like an acute thing. And sometimes I like, of course, I can just acutely give a remedy, but then I can ask a little bit about the mental emotional, right? Like, so my son, chronic ear infections, clingy and whiny and wanting a lot of support. There's an emotional connection there. There's an emotional behind that, which a regular doctor is never going to take into account, whether they're irritable or angry, or whether they're weepy and whiny and want you to hug them, right? Or they're like, no, leave me alone. Those are two different ear infection presentations that need different remedies, but that mental emotional is really important, even in the acutes, right? So it actually matters. So I think we need to, I never would have thought that an acute situation or any health situation 10 years ago was about emotional stuff. It was just about the physical. You just got this infection, you got this bug that needed to be killed, and then you'd move on with your life, right? Like that's what I thought it was about. So, yeah,
The killing is the key word there.
right.
Gonna dominate, conquer, conquest, wage
Yeah,
war on. Yeah, it's a totally different paradigm, right? That it's not about
totally.
eliminating necessarily. I mean, even with mold, that's super controversial right now because there's some people who are like, it's
Mhm.
not about the mold, and then
It's
there's
not. It's not. I have so many clients with mold illness. It's not about the mold. It's not. And
well, there's
and the
so many
more that
people are gonna go to bat with you over that
they
one.
can go to bat with me about it. It is not about the mold. I am going to stand on top of that one and die on that hill because I have tons of clients with mold. And as they continue to work with me, they're like, oh shit, it's not about the mold. It's about that thing with my mother or that grief or that medication that I took. You have chronic mold? Let me ask you, how many antibiotics have you taken in your life? Probably a ton. Like it's also about that. It's the energetic imprint of that. There's things. It is not just about the pathogen. It is never about the pathogen. And maybe, you know what? I'm sitting in this chair saying this today, right now, and I just said I was going to die on that hill. Maybe I'll change my mind in 10 years because nothing is ever stagnant and nothing is ever the same. But as I'm sitting here today in this consciousness today, I would be like, no, absolutely, because it's always tied to the mental emotional. But things don't ever stay the same and beliefs can shift and change. So who knows, you know?
Well, hopefully things go well in the world. We can do a follow up to this in several years.
Oh my God, yes, that'd be so amazing. I wonder, that'd be so cool. I'll follow up. Do we still believe these things?
Yes, let's do
Yeah,
it.
I
Let's
would
do it.
love that. Okay, very
Yes,
cool, very
yes.
cool. Yeah, I love that.
Well, so I think one of the main shifts for me as far as the mental health perspective, Vanessa, is that, and well, I've had a lot of changes about my feelings about the mental field of mental health.
Mm,
A lot from not really recognizing just how toxic psychopharmaceuticals are. Is that the right word? You know what I mean. Psychological drugs. So, psychiatry and all of that I find super toxic. Now, if somebody's like completely out of control, suicidal, okay, we have to find a way to, manage that. But still, there's obviously, spiritual and mental, emotional, and physical imbalances there. But I've changed so much about all of it. Like I don't like any of that kind of stuff. Medicate first, ask questions later. I don't like the idea of so-called negative emotions. I feel like there's emotions that protect us and they're protest emotions. They all matter. How you handle them matters. Of course, how you act them out matters. And that emotions aren't the bad thing to be conquered, tamed, or whatever, snuffed out. They're all messengers. That's something I definitely believe.
mm.
But there's just so much about, the whole mental health field that needs help. So I've changed a lot. And I used to say, like, I'm a psychotherapist. And now I'm like, I'm really not. I want to be more of a guide. I want to be somebody who helps you to
Mm.
see yourself. That's what I don't want to have to call it any certain thing, but we need to help people understand what we do. So I have to find the language to do that. But psychotherapy certainly does not encompass that. And I certainly don't want to be constricted by state licensure. So I'm working
Mhm.
on that. But yeah, a lot of things about the emotions and mental health and all of that. And just thinking about, like you said, the mental emotional stuff, like how much that actually affects our physiology is profound. profound. And they don't really address that the way that we do in this frequency energy paradigm in the mental health field. It's again more of like, oh, we got to get rid of the bad emotions.
And why is an emotion bad? Like, I love that you
Ah,
just said that because I agree. All emotions are good. Oh, not good. The emotions are just emotions. They're not, they're just energy in motion. They're not really good nor bad. They're just there and they need to be processed and emoted. Otherwise, we are going to be stuffing them down and causing deeper issues, really. So we just need to let them flow. And what maybe we need work on or support on or guidance on is how do I let those emotions flow in a healthy way that is not harmful to others, in some certain cases, or harmful to myself, right? How do I move through those emotions? How do I be with those emotions? How do I sit with those emotions? How do I move through those emotions? How do I help them flow and not get stuck and stagnant? Right. And I love that how you switched in this area and how you're guiding people in that direction because it's so valid and so needed. But I used to definitely think like negative thinking was always bad and negative emotions are, you can't have envy ever, you can't have grief, or you can't have, and now I see those as transmuting those into different avenues and different levels of consciousness and different up leveling in yourself when you have these emotions and you sit with them and you move with them and you feel them and then you let them flow and then you're like ooh, then you like move up in the world a little bit, like kind of like an acute situation. Like if you had like an acute fever, right? You let that kind of crisis come to the forefront, and then on the other side, you're stronger and up leveled. Same thing, right? So I don't think that's why I try to post pictures of myself when I have bad moments and I'm crying. I literally post them on Instagram and people are like, "Oh, what's the matter?" I'm like, "It's not about the pity. I don't need your pity. Thank you so much. I appreciate you being kind and like wanting to like support me through my emotional things. But I'm posting that so you know that it's freaking okay to cry. Like it's not like I'm not this superhuman being who doesn't have emotions and doesn't cry and doesn't have hard days. Like it's good. Let that shit out. Like don't keep it all in. Like I'm like I love a good cry and I always feel better afterwards, right? I mean, not every constitution feels better after a cry. That's true. I do. Yeah, but yeah. But anyway, I just feel like we need to let those things out and it's so important and I'll die on that hill maybe too. Um, maybe not. Maybe I'll change my mind. Anyway, I used to believe though that healing was all about just finding the right protocol, supplement, diet, even remedy, finding the right remedy, finding the right protocol, and everything would be healed. Like there was some sort of magic formula outside of myself that would heal me, and that's never really the case either. And when I work with people, I'm really just their guide, helping them with their own internal clock and wisdom and figure things out. Like that's what we're really doing. Because we all have the interest within us. I really do believe that. And we know what we need to really heal. And we just have to, keep helping move through that and be a support for others to get to that level of understanding. So,
mhm. Yeah,
yeah. Mm.
yeah, it's all just a learning process. It's all becoming more of who we are.
Yeah,
Removing the
yeah.
layers of suppression, conditioning, all of
Yeah.
that to find out, well, this is just simple, right? It's just this is who I am. And then when we're more in alignment with our soul, then the healing is much more right likely to happen. So
Hmm.
I think that's the whole point of being here, right?
Hmm. I think it's funny that, I work with energy medicine, homeopathy, flower essences, quantum biology, and I used to believe energy medicine was bullshit. I would never, like, if you would have asked me 10 years ago if I was like, you have a UTI, you better go get some antibiotics, girl. Like, I would never have, like, thought of energy medicine or any of that, or like, if my kids had something. I would never have think of energy medicine. That wasn't even in my realm of possibility. Like it didn't even make sense to me. I didn't even understand how that could even work or how it could be possible. So I just would think if somebody would have said something woo like that, like I would have thought it was woo and I love woo now. Like woo's my favorite. But like I would not have been interested. So I used to believe that it was nonsense and that it didn't really exist and medicine was just purely like physical, like we said before. It was all about the physical, not about any kind of other way of working. So
Yeah,
I think
but
it's
that's
funny that
what
I
people
work with
feel.
energy medicine now.
I know, right? And that's what people are familiar with and they feel safe. and it's socially accepted. And I used to be certainly a therapist with a chip on my shoulder early on about, oh, that therapist. Now I feel like, oh my God, I wish I had known her, and then, gotten to talk to her about all the ways she's using her energy medicine in her psychotherapy practice, because I am like, oh, that's just that weird woo woo stuff. This is the real thing. Like, this is what's the best. It's like, what a bunch of bullshit. Like, 'cause I was full of it. She worked with really hard stuff like eating disorders. I don't know. That's one of the hardest things to work with. So anyway, I certainly have changed my tune about all of that, and I can really see how. And the thing is that the more we're just like submerged in the, you know, material reality, it's harder to understand and to see the energy,
Hmm.
right?
It's
The
true.
idea about energy, but certainly people are aware of it because, you go in a room and there's a bunch of people, but there's that one person, and you're like, ooh. So you can sense things, like people know that, but we don't
Yeah.
give merit and credit to that, and we don't honor it. So that's the whole point: is how do we help shift our paradigm to one that embraces that, and teach our children how to know themselves and how to energetically, right, read their experience and then follow their instincts. That would be
Hmm.
amazing. In school, I really think just like squish it, like just like crushes that and
Oh yeah.
conditions it out of you. So you know how they
Hmm.
say like all children are born psychic, and then it just gets wiped out. It's that
Oh
kind of
my God,
thing.
that's so true. Yeah. All that conditioning. It's so much conditioning. Oh my goodness. Yes. 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 Yeah. Another one is I used to believe that water was just water. It didn't have any consciousness. It didn't have anything else. It was just inert. It was just nothing. Like it wasn't responsive to the environment in any way. I was just like, yeah, you just need to drink water to just be hydrated, like just to drink water because we need water. Never really thought deeper about it. And now I think so much more deeply about water, like on an everyday basis, how I'm hydrating myself with coherent and structured and, the thoughts and the intentions that go into my water. I mean, I literally, every water I drink always has a post-it note underneath it. Like, it's just like what I do. It's just it's like I have a bunch of them and I just pick one out and I put it down and I'm very intuitive about it. Okay, yeah, this one, yep, sure. And then I just put my water underneath it for the day. And it's just like, I don't know, like I just never would have even cared or thought about any of that and what that was actually doing to my cells and what kind of information that was imprinting on my body. Like it wasn't even a thought of mine. So I think that that's a whole big shift that I've had and different belief system around that for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's so many dynamic things we learn and fascinating and ways to enrich our lives with rituals and honoring and just, recognizing the power. Not, I don't know if power is the right word, but the energetic potency of things. And yeah, it's
Mm.
beautiful.
Mm. Yeah, this one's a little bit kind of a deep one, but I used to just believe that when you died, and that was it. Like that was it. Like there was nothing more. And I did a video on this on I think it was on my YouTube channel. Like that consciousness just ended. There was nothing. There was nothing more. And then I honestly think that one of the reasons why I got sick was, well, I think sickness or disease comes into us for a lot of reasons, but one of them was to like give me a lot of awakenings in many ways, but one was to that there's more to life than just this life. There's more beyond that. And my beliefs around, and that's very spiritual for me, and that's based off of my own experiences, that now I believe that this is not the first rodeo that I've been on, and that, the soul continues to evolve and learn more things and goes on to have more lives. And that's my belief. It doesn't have to be yours. That's just what I believe at this moment in time to be true. And we was talking about, and I really do believe that part of me getting sick was a death and rebirth of that. Like to really have much more spirituality and connection, right? Because I was missing that. And also was a lot to do with me having gratitude in my life because I wasn't having a lot of gratitude for all the things I had. So I think that that was two really big lessons that the universe was like, oh no, you need this. You're going to have pain and suffering, so you can figure out that you need to have gratitude and presence and, and spirituality, right? I do believe that. We were having a conversation with my kids about this because My one son was like, I don't believe any of that, mom. I'm like, that's okay. You don't have to believe that. My other son was like, I'd rather believe what mom's saying though, because then that's like there's so much more hope and there's so much more like, it's a much better way to think and believe than just be like, oh, you're just like that's it. That's you're just it's over. But I believe the soul continues. And he was like, I like mom's way better because that just makes more sense and it makes you feel better about that death experience, right? Like there's more to it. So I
Hmm.
think that's a super personal one, but I did used to believe that. I used to just believe, oh, it's just like that's it. Like there's nothing more. So
Hmm.
yeah.
That's so beautiful. Yeah.
Thanks. Yeah.
And that's about the learning and growing. I mean, we're really just here to learn and then, right,
Evolve.
evolve, and then we get to repeat that in the next iteration.
Yeah. And
Next.
my soul came here for deep spiritual change, like based off my astrology chart, like really deep spiritual change. That soul was like, you didn't learn this stuff in the last life, so you're gonna learn it this time. And that is indicated in my astrology chart, which I find to be so fascinating. Like I love that kind of stuff. And I definitely have felt into past lives. So I know that they're either, I don't know if they're past necessarily, or they're just having it in another dimension happening. I don't know. But I felt into that. My spirit has done other things. So it's just so interesting. So
Hmm. Well, what else? I know we're running up on an hour here, and we so appreciate you listening to our comments and shares and insights about this big topic that we just felt like, and Vanessa's idea was to do this. So I got to give her credit that this is a really important aspect of health. And I think health is such a, like, it's not a big enough word. Like, it's about our whole lives, right? It's how we experience everything. Health to me is how much we're able to be with all of it, and
mm,
right, and be at peace with as much as possible about our current place and enjoy ourselves. That is health to me, because I think that we can get pretty short-sighted about health, like it's about the gym, or oh, I just have to drink more water. And yes, these things matter. Movement matters, and being hydrated matters. And there's just so much more to it than just those isolated, like tasks that people.
physical things too, physical. Oh,
Yeah.
that's very much rooted in the physical. Like there's much more, healing is much more soul related than it is physical related, in my opinion, just based off of my experiences. And I think that
Yes.
we perceive it to be in the physical. Like when I got sick, I was like, I need to get out of pain. I need to heal. I need to physically change my reality. But the more soul work I did, the more I really healed. Right. So this is
Yeah.
where the truth of the matter really is because they can't be they're never going to be separated. They're always going to be connected because the soul's asking for something when you're experiencing chronic pain every day and depression or fatigue or whatever. The soul's asking for some changes in its life or alignments or whatever. So, yeah, I think we covered most of it. I had two other ones I wanted to mention. Just I used to believe classical homeopathy was the only way to work, and obviously Heather and I have definitely shifted along that, and that we've seen that there are other methodologies that are very, very valid and necessary. And I also used to believe a practitioner would heal me versus I'm me healing me, which is a big reality. And it doesn't mean we don't use practitioners. I still do, and I still use them as supports and guides. But I still keep my intuition intact, and I still think that that's really important. And yeah, I just think that I think we just have to understand that everybody's at the same level of recognizing where recognizing these patterns or these things, and that doesn't matter. Everybody's at wherever they're at, and that's fine. There's no judgment. We don't need to be critical of others. I want to say that, like, because in the health space, I can see that people can be critical of others. That's like, oh, you don't know this, or you're not understanding this, or you're still in the physical where it's really about the mental, emotional, or blah, 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 blah. Like, that's just where people are at. I just take away the judgment, and just help people be curious, is what I want to say. Help them become curious and, like, maybe try not to do what I do and like get too intense with them, but help them be curious so they can like hold space for them in their stage, but help them maybe like give them a little bit of plant the little seeds, for them about what could be or other things like so that opens their curiosity without forcing them to like any agreement. And then that's where real growth can really happen is when we just kind of plant those seeds and allow people to like open and expand their minds. And I think that's how we really shift the whole collective consciousness and how we really upgrade people, because we are all one. And we, if we just keep planting the seeds and the nuggets and keep helping people's eyes be open in little small ways, right, then we can at a larger, have that larger ripple effect and that larger quantum like effect for
Mhm.
everybody. So yeah.
They stated, yeah.
Hmm. Yeah. So if any of this resonated with you guys, you can always work with one of us. I'm definitely taking new clients. So you can come and check out my website, brightlightwellnesscoach.com. You can work with me. I always recommend people booking an initial homeopathy session. And in that session, I do go over whether you need homeopathics, whether you need tissue salts, flower essences, whether you need some lifestyle support. I sprinkle it in. It's like very layered approach. I'm like, okay, how about a little bit of this? And a little bit of this and a little bit of that, because I don't want to overwhelm people, because um I think people can get overwhelmed. They're like, wow, I just had a client say that to me. She's like, I listened to one of your videos and I was like, it was one of my longer ones. And she's like, wow, that's like so many things to change in my life. I think, but I'm like, it's a layered, slow approach over time. And not necessarily all of it needs to be done. And it certainly doesn't need to be done today or tomorrow or any day. It's just a slow, gradual thing. So I always tell people to work with me there. But of course, I have other offerings and coachings and things like that. So you can check out all my offerings there, and I can support you in your growth.
Yeah, and you guys can find me at enlightenedmood.com. That redirects to my Calendly booking page if you want to book a session with me. And I will start with you on where you're at with your perception and how you are digesting your own reality, basically, so that we can tap into the energy that you're creating inside and how that's supporting or not your own body's ability to heal.
Made me think of one more thing that was beautiful. Digestion's not just about what we eat. It's also about what we digest all over, like emotionally too, right?
Absolutely.
Spiritually, energetically. Ah, so good. This was so much fun, Heather. Please remember to rate and review the podcast and, share it with people who need to hear it. We really, really do appreciate that. Have a good day, guys.